uniting communities throughout the six. This is Urban Definition with your hosts Sassan, Kareem, and Zayn on CHHA 1610.
Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 28th, and you are now listening to another episode of Urban Definition. My name is Zayn, and I'm joined with my co-host, Mr. Sassan Mirzai.
Hey, guys.
Sassan, how are you today?
Am I on air right now?
You're on air right now.
Because I can't see that light.
You can't? Oh, you know what? I don't think that light comes on that much anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, then perfect. I'm not used to the new boards. First time back with when you guys did a whole change.
Oh, yeah. No, I feel you. Yeah, man. You know what? This new board is actually tripping me out a little bit because I'm used to turning up Zara a little bit more, but right now I'm not really sure what I'm doing here with that. I'm going to leave that, though. How have you been? You weren't here last week.
Yeah, I was at the Sesqui show.
How was that? How did you find it?
That was actually super cool. I was expecting the resolution to be like a little better because they were like pumping it up saying it's in 9K resolution. And when I get there, I'm like, it's projector quality 4K, but still pretty awesome.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I actually really love like the ability to like look around. I like how they filmed it because you're not missing stuff if you're only looking in one direction. They had stuff going on both sides of the dome at all times.
Exactly, yeah.
Because it's 360 and 360 is a new technology. I thought they'd only have like one subject and then the back would be like nothing going on.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And the beautiful thing about that was that's how they wanted to film it, right? So they had everything going all around you.
Yeah. But then I always saw people who didn't even turn their heads at all. They were always just facing the front.
Because it's funny you mention that because there is at one point, there is a direction in which they tell you to watch the film.
No, but that's the thing. Like, I'll give the example of the skaters, for instance.
Okay.
If you were looking at the front, which was where the logo started, you'd see the main skater actually dancing and everyone's looking there. So I was like, what if I look around? I looked behind me and it was the other skater and no one was looking at him. So that's what I was like shocked about. And this happened a lot, even with like the animals. There was one scene, I think it was like cows or sheep or something. They were all like stampeding towards the right. But then if you looked on the left, there was this one sheep or cow, whatever it was. It was just like on its own. I was like, this is adorable. Well, you guys are missing the full picture. Turn your head.
Would you recommend other people to see this film?
Of course. And it's only 20 minutes. The lineup doesn't take that long. You just go in. It's great. I loved every minute of it. I know I'm taking my friends again when it comes in Richmond Hill because the location right now, it's not in the best location for, like, my friends.
Well, it's definitely going to move around. I know right now it's in London. They actually posted that, so...
Yeah, and I heard when it comes to Richmond Hill, it's going to Richmond Green, and that place has tons of free parking. It's a great-looking park. It's beautiful, because, like, right now where it's situated, it's, like, there's no grass. It's just dirt.
Well, it's no longer situated there anymore.
Oh, actually, they moved it?
Yeah, they moved the dome.
Oh, it's gone already?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they have a tour.
There you go.
But, yeah, anyways, let's get on with the show tonight. For everyone listening on, well, in any kind of medium, you can join the conversation and be part of our show tonight by going to urbandefinition.ca, clicking on the Facebook and Twitter tabs, and tweet at us or write on our wall, comment anywhere, and just be part of the conversation. Let us know how you feel. With that said, we almost didn't have a show today, actually, because when I woke up today, I was feeling a little sick. I had some stomach pain, so I actually went to Mount Sinai Hospital. And they did some tests, and it turns out everything's okay. That's good. I definitely feel better. But I was afraid in the moment that I was like, oh, man, I'm going to have to call Sassan and tell him, listen, it's either you're going to be alone tonight. And then, oh, no, we have a guest on tonight. What am I going to tell the guest after we just promoted so much of him?
The funny part was, you told me this when you were already in the radio cabin. You're like, oh, I was planning on not coming at one point.
It wasn't I wasn't planning on not coming. It's I wasn't sure if I was going to make it.
Yeah, but that too. And then I realized there's new boards. I've only done the boards once, and now there's new ones, so I didn't know how to use that. Also, a guest that I know nothing about. It was just, oh my God.
You should not say that on air.
No,
you should not say that on air. We've done prep for this. I've sent you his bios.
I know, but I mean, I don't know him as much as you do, and I always hit the tech questions.
Oh, man.
It would have been.
Let's get on to the show. Let's start with the news. Sassan, what's going on in the world?
You were talking about Twitter, so let's get into Twitter. So apparently at Cardiff University, they were doing this new research with like supercomputers, like testing out how great Twitter is. And basically they took like a little data of like 1.6 million tweets, and they used those tweets from around when the London riots happened in 2011. And they realized that Twitter had the information about these riots before the police did at an hour beforehand. So now people are thinking, hey, we can use computers to use Twitter to find information, and the police will be able to get notified earlier. And it just shows that social media is a great thing because people aren't really there to report. Like, I don't even have the police number on my phone. Like, I don't know the reporting line. So people like that, they'd be able to just tweet, and the computer will be like, something's happening here. We found like a million tweets, like not a million, let's say like 20 tweets saying something's going on here. There's like a car on fire. There must be something up. And it's just great. Technology's awesome.
Well, earlier today, John Tory, Kathleen Wynne, and Justin Trudeau had an announcement to make at Polson Street. All three government levels will be jointly investing in nearly $1.2 billion to protect the Portlands from flooding over the next 7 years. It's part of a larger plan to unlock an estimated 240 hectares of prime waterfront real estate for redevelopment. The work is going to be overseen by Waterfront Toronto, and it's basically going to reroute the Don River to the middle of the Portlands between Ship Channel and Keating Channel, and then create a 1,000-meter stretch of naturalized river valley in the process. Now, this whole entire process is supposed to create about 1,500 jobs. Once it's complete, the work will allow a 60-acre plot of land near Lakeshore Boulevard and the Don Valley Parkway to be redeveloped. First Gulf, which is the developer that owns the land currently, has said that it plans to turn the area into a major business hub with 10 million square feet of new office space, 2 million square feet of new commercial space, as well as new residents for an estimated 30,000 people, which is 20% of that, will be affordable housing. So basically, it's going to be a downtown east. Kathleen Wynne has said that protecting the area is going to be made into a vibrant new community, while John Tory says that the work will unlock new neighborhoods, new jobs, and new opportunities. Justin Trudeau just says that the project will be transformative, and it's an initiative that will ensure that Toronto continues to be an attractive place to do business, both big and small.
So this is, I think I've touched on this earlier, like 2 weeks ago, and this is about how our government is going to be able to control what we see on the internet because they were like filtering out stuff. And this actually happened. So Canada's Supreme Court ordered Google to take down websites that had stolen Canadian intellectual property. And this was coming out as an outrage for everyone because Google actually did it. So Google took down the websites, and now everyone's like, if they're able to do this for Canada, they're probably going to be able to do this for the whole world because some laws don't exist in other countries. Let's say like, I know these ones for sure, like China, they don't have copyright laws there. So you can easily manufacture stuff and blah, blah, blah. So this whole new law doesn't affect them. But what about stuff like nudity or stuff like that in other countries? Like I know Iran doesn't allow nudity on the internet. So would these countries be able to take that kind of stuff down? But you don't know where Google's going with this because they're just picking the laws that they find right, which makes sense to us because we live in Canada and the U.S. has the same kind of stuff, but it's just all over the place, and this is just going to be havoc worldwide for filtering the internet.
The long-awaited Cineplex Rec Room is now open on Bremner Boulevard. Taking over the Leon's warehouse space, the shiny new 40,000 square foot entertainment complex is filled with video and arcade games, a VR gaming experience, and a theater for live entertainment, not movies. It's kid-friendly, but it's meant to be a space for all ages, so there are drinks for those who are 19 and older. There is a similar gaming house already in Edmonton, and there are plans in the process for one at Square One in Mississauga.
So this has been a really bad year for ransomware, and from my perspective, I always saw ransomware as that one virus that no one really cared about because it's like really easy to fix because you really don't need to give them your credit card information. But it's attacking like a lot of people, and yesterday there was a huge report from Kaspersky, it's a virus company, an antivirus company, not a virus company, and they reported that 60% of the attacks yesterday were affecting Ukraine, and it wasn't just like regular people. It affected central banks, airports, the metro transport, and the worst one is the Chernobyl power plant. So they had to switch their radiation checking to manual because of these ransomware attacks.
Do you remember the Blue Jays fan who threw the beer can last summer at the game?
Oh my god, yes.
And he was shouting racial slurs?
Yeah, and then he got fired from his job like a week later.
He's been given a conditional discharge. Ken Pagan was his name, and he was the man and pleaded guilty to mischief in connection with the incident last month. The conditions of Pagan's discharge include community service and an order to stay away from Major League Baseball games for a year. So he's been banned for an entire year. Pagan has admitted tossing a beer can on the field last October. He did offer an apology in court, saying that he is a lifelong baseball fan and threw the can when his emotions got the best of him during an exciting moment. His lawyer has asked for the client to be given an absolute discharge, arguing that he suffered from intense media scrutiny since the can toss, became the butt of all jokes, and has been harassed online. And I can kind of see that point, actually.
I guess so, but he still did it. You're not supposed to do that kind of stuff. Violence shouldn't be like, oh, it's okay, you're being bullied now. Your act of violence can be pushed aside.
No, I definitely agree, but he has received a lot of media scrutiny.
That's very true, though. Everyone knows about him. You just said his name and I already remembered who he was. But anyways, this is a huge year for cell phones because everyone knows it's Apple's iPhone's 10th anniversary. So they're planning to make a huge, upgrade to their phone. It's not going to look like the predecessors. It's going to be a brand new, fresh-looking phone. So everyone's like, Apple's doing this. We all have to attack. So the first person to take them down is, of course, Samsung, because Samsung is Apple's #1 competitor right now. And they were like, hey, our Note failed last year because of the explosions. Let's beat Apple by taking the new Note 8 and releasing it in August, in August to beat Apple's release date. So that was a huge thing. And then OnePlus 5, if you guys remember OnePlus, their new phone basically swept every phone off the market because they took the greatest specs and put it into their phone just because they're like, hey, we're done equalizing with all the top phones on the market today. Let's actually step it up. Let's put the best specs in our phone and still be cheaper and just beat everyone. So their new phone was actually leaked with specs, and their specs were 8 gigs of RAM as compared to the 4 gigs, or compared to the 6 gigs coming out on the Note this year. But 8 gigs compared to 4 gigs? That's crazy. So it's going to be double the RAM of every phone on the market right now. And not only that, it has the same Snapdragon processor as all the other phones coming out, and it's at half the price. Because this phone, the OnePlus 5 is going at $479 US, whereas I think it's the Note 8's going for $1.2K. It's honestly just ridiculous.
Sass, are you a Harry Potter fan?
Yes, of course.
Then you'll know that on Monday, the story of Harry Potter became 20 years old. J.K. Rowling's first novel, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, was published in Britain on June 26, 1997. Since then, it has sold more than 450 million copies worldwide, has been translated into 79 languages, and has had films, spin-offs, a ton of merchandise, and even amusement park attractions. Check out my Instagram for more when I went to Orlando over March, and all surrounding this magical tale. J.K. Rowling tweeted, 20 years ago today, a world that I lived in alone was suddenly open to others. It's been wonderful. Thank you. In honor of the anniversary, Rowling's publisher, Bloomsbury, will release 4 new editions of the book, one for each house at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Sasson, very quickly, if you were to go to Hogwarts, what house do you think you'd be in?
Obviously Ravenclaw.
Really?
Yeah.
What are Ravenclaw's features? In 5 seconds or less.
It's mostly intelligence, so it's the techies of the wizarding world.
That makes a lot of sense. I don't know what I would be.
Really?
I want to say Gryffindor, but I feel like that's a very cliche answer. I don't want to be Slytherin.
It's not cliche.
I don't really know what
You
Hufflepuff
pick
does.
the house that you're most suited to.
I'll say Gryffindor for now. Anyways, we'll be back after the commercial break. We've got our guest, Gagan Singh, on, so stick around. You don't want to miss it.
Urban Definition on CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
welcome back to Urban Definition, everyone. Just before we get into the second block and with our guest, we're going to just quickly tell you how to be part of the conversation again. So go to urbandefinition.ca, click on Facebook and Twitter, and let us know your thoughts and comments, and you know, be part of everything that we have. And with that said, Sassan, I'd like you to introduce our guest for tonight.
So we're here with Gagan Singh.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Great introduction. Yes, tonight we're actually here with Gagan Singh, who is a music producer and someone I've actually known for the last, I think, 9 years now.
It's been a long time, man. I think since high school.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Gagan.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
So first things, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
So I am a music composer and a record producer. I mostly score films. So those are that means when you go and watch a movie at your nearest Cineplex, the background music that you hear is called a background score. It's called a film score, the soundtrack. So I either am the composer or I'm working with other composers and orchestrating music with them for films. I've done some TV spots as well, and also produce records. So
tell me a little bit about actually how you got into music. So like where are you from, and how did music start with you?
Well, I was born in the great city called Scarborough.
Scarborough, represent.
Represent. And so I was born and brought up here in the GTA. Pretty much my whole life I've been here, and I think it's the greatest city in the world. And it's a great music city as well, because I grew up learning music in school, learning Western classical music and playing in concert bands and jazz bands, but then also outside of school, parallelly, I don't even know if that's a word, parallelly.
It could be.
I'm just making words up right now. But at the same time, I was also learning Indian classical music outside of school. So I had these two two different worlds going together. And my parents got me, my parents bought me a tabla, which is an Indian percussion instrument. They're two hand drums that are pitched. They bought me those at the age of 2 or 3, I believe.
Oh, that's young.
Yeah, it's really young. And there's a picture of me. I posted on my Instagram a little while ago. There's a hashtag Throwback Thursday moment, and it was these two Folgers big Costco coffee cans. You know those large, extra large ones that you buy.
Yeah.
And so I had 2 of them, and I would always, keep hitting on them. And to my parents, it looked kind of like, oh, he's playing a tabla, because that's how they related to it. And so at that point, it was all music from there.
So you started with the tabla. So is percussion your main instrument?
I started with percussion. Percussion is really in my blood, and that's how I started. And then I got more into, keyboards, pianos, and then I created a whole recording studio at my home. I built it. And
wait, you built your own recording studio?
Yes, then I built my own recording studio at the age of, I asked everyone for help. I mean, my whole family was in on it. This is not something I could do alone at a young age. But, that was the best way for me to get experience, was rather than, as I was going and visiting recording studios in the meantime and interning wherever I could, but at the same time I needed to create on a daily basis, so...
But was it like a full-on recording studio, or was it like one with eggshell cartons and?
No, I never did the whole McDonald's eggshell carton thing. Was
so
too
actually with like the real sponge and like real.
Yeah, I went with real acoustic tiling and Oralex and all that kind of stuff. And it's not the biggest, greatest space in the world, but it's my writing studio. It's where all the composition happens, and then if we need to score a 40-piece string section, then we'll go to Phase 1 Studios or Cherry Beach, like I was talking to you guys about off air.
So you start with the tabla, then you built your own recording studio. What were you doing when you were recording? What were like the first pieces you started recording for music?
That's a great question. I actually started learning music production on a very, very crappy keyboard that I asked my parents to buy me when I was about 14. It was a little Casio dinky keyboard. And then after that, as I progressed and I started learning, softwares and all that, then I begged my parents, for the next Christmas gift. It was a Yamaha motif, which I still keep. It's a tremendous, it's like a $3,000-$4,000 synthesizer, and I learned all my music production on there. And then
$3,000-$4,000. Damn.
Yeah, I know. So it was an investment, but I always went very slow with each thing, and then the microphones and all, it all adds up. So
wow. Okay.
yeah.
So then so the first piece of music you actually recorded then, what, like, did you create your own song?
So I went a little bit off tangent. Yeah.
No,
so
that's good. I'm glad you did.
You were talking about, what I started to first record. So it was all with that motif, with that keyboard, and they were basically just little instrumentals. I would call them kind of like lounge music.
Uh-huh.
It was just, because, I'm not a great singer. But then I started to work with songwriters and then create, little songs, and they would write to my instrumentals and write to my beats and my tracks. And, that's how I got started in the music production world as well.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
But which programs did you start with? Did you go for the free route, through Audacity, or was it built into your keyboard, or?
They were, it was, I learned sequencing and arranging. Arranging is something I also do for, other composers on their feature films and stuff like that. Learning the process of arranging music is something I learned right on that keyboard. It has a built-in sequencing software. But as I got more advanced with that process, then I switched over to, I just went everything Apple, and I got Logic Pro, and the rest is history.
Did you ever release music onto YouTube or a platform like that, or SoundCloud, where you had people reviewing your music? Because I know, for one, when I've met you in high school, I don't know how far you were into music at that point, but I know soon after I met you, I saw a music post and the tablas and everything. So I know you were really into it. And is it fair to say it stuck as a hobby back then when I first met you?
You know what? I didn't know I could do it as a career. I don't know if I was overwhelmed by that thought, or maybe I just didn't know enough about careers within the music and entertainment industry.
Because I hadn't actually seen anything on YouTube of yours for a long time. So I'm like, when did you start doing that actually? Or did you have things before, way in advance?
No, that started fairly recently, and that's a fair question. Probably a couple years ago, I started posting a lot more on SoundCloud and YouTube. A lot of my projects tend to be commissioned projects, so I'm not really owning the master rights, but now I'm a lot more open to doing a lot more YouTube and collaboration type of work. It took me a while. It was kind of a creative issue that I was going through to let myself be free and have everyone see me, openly doing my thing. So you're going to see a lot more of that now too. And my SoundCloud you can definitely check it out. There's a lot going on there too.
I hope so. What is your SoundCloud actually? So people at home.
So there's my yeah.
they can listen to it.
So it's soundcloud.com/Gagan Singh Music. So I'll spell that out for you guys as well. It's GAGAN SINGH, which is my name, Gagan Singh, and then music, MUSIC.
Okay, cool.
We'll be sure to have it on our Twitter and Facebook.
We will. We definitely will. Because I haven't had a chance to check out your SoundCloud, to be honest with you.
Oh man, well you got to.
I have to, and I know you're doing big things, and that's something we definitely want to talk to you about. How did you first start with how did your career kick off?
Well,
from a passion project to a full-on, I'm getting paid for this.
Well, I never saw it as a okay, well now it's fully kicked off. I started again with small internships. That was probably the real kickoff, and working in recording studios, and that led me to meeting a lot of people who commissioned me to produce records. I recently produced a record with a local Toronto talent named Dominique Grant. And then, I also started scoring films and worked with other composers, like on the film we'll talk about, Drone, which just recently released as well. And so I guess it was a process,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who I've seen do music,
Mm-hmm.
or I hear about,
Yeah.
but I don't see them go far. And I think you're the first person that I personally know
Right.
who's gotten this far, which is crazy.
I think you have to be persistent with it, and that's something that I struggle with a lot too. Our generation wants instant gratification, instant success, and I think you have to sit with you have to put in your 10,000 hours, and I'm a believer of that, and so it takes its time, but it's a journey, it's a marathon.
Well, what I really want to know, and I don't know if we'll have time for this for the remainder of this block, but I want to know the connections you made. So from going to how you made your music, who heard it, who recommended you, how you got in touch with all these people, because those are the questions that people on the come up, they want to know how to get to that next step, how to get into contact with these kinds of people and get into those projects, because as you're very familiar with our industry, broadcasting and production of all sorts,
right?
Everything is always about exposure and freelancing and as you said, putting in 10,000 hours, right? But sometimes, I feel like there's people who they put in their 10,000 hours and they don't know where to go. They don't know where they're finding themselves. So it's that's kind of where I want you to answer for us when we get back.
Sounds good.
I'm hoping you can. But for everyone listening, we'll be back after the commercial break. We'll have more with Gagan Singh, music composer, and in my opinion, a genius.
Oh, thank you, man.
Stick around. We'll be right back. Urban Definition.
Urban Definition. On CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back to Urban Definition. We are joined in studio with Gagan Singh of Gagan Singh Music, which is his own brand. And before we start again with Gagan and continue to talk to him, Sassan, how do people get in touch with us and follow our conversation and be part of it?
Well, obviously, if they've been here before, they know how to do this. But if this is your first time listening in, be sure to check out urbandefinition.ca. All our social media links are there, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram. So go to those through urbandefinition.ca. And Gagan Singh's info will be posted after the show on those social media outlets.
That's right, and Sassan would know because Sassan created the website, so he is responsible for all of it. So Gagan,
yes,
as we were talking about before the break, how did you get connected to where you are today?
Well, so I studied at the University of Toronto, Scarborough campus. Again, represent Scarborough.
Represent Scartown.
And from there I met a few key players, which became some of my musician associates. And then I also joined a few associations. A couple that were big for me were the Songwriters Association of Canada, as well as the Screen Composers Guild of Canada. Now, with the Screen Composers Guild of Canada, I'm going to just start calling it the SCGC. With that,
I noticed you like to tap on the table.
Yeah, I was going to go into it with the percussion thing. Me and Sassan were talking about
it's
it.
It's good. You got the art hands.
Right? Just drum on everything you can, right? But with the SCGC, I got involved with them in about, I think, early 2015, and you were talking about where it started taking off for me, especially with film scoring. That's where it really started to take off for me. I started to learn a lot more that I didn't know, that I thought I knew. And then last year I became a professional member of them. Before I was kind of doing a apprenticeship type of program with them, and I was working with a few great composers there, and that's also how the film Drone came about. There's a fantastic composer in Vancouver named Michael Nielsen who got chatting with me about Indian musicians that would be a part of the film project, and we got talking, and he's like, why don't you be a part of the film and write some of the rhythm stuff for me and record some tablas and a bunch of Indian percussion.
So I got two questions. How did you get in touch with what was his name?
Michael Nielsen.
How did you get in touch with Michael Nielsen? And what is Drone about? If you're allowed to tell us. I don't know if it's...
Yeah, no, it's the film's out, actually. The film it's already had a couple of premieres, and the trailers were all like a blast last month. The film is I'll get to your other question as well, but the film is a political thriller, so it's really interesting, and it's kind of based on what's happening right now in terms of the political sphere, where it's kind of the Eastern philosophy and and versus the Western philosophy. And so it's basically based on, I don't know if you guys know the actor Sean Bean. So he was Ned Stark in Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow.
And so he's the main protagonist. And
he's the good guy.
Well, that's the thing that you'll find out in the film. I don't want to give away too much, but it's a film that doesn't really have a good guy and a bad guy. There's also Patrick Sabongi, who's in the film, who plays what you would think is the antagonist, but it shows the gray area in the world, that there's no real right answer or wrong answer. It's just media bias, you know.
I want to make a guess here that says Sean Bean kind of dies, like he does in most places.
I'm not going to say anything, but
I know. I'm not gonna. I just said I'm gonna make a guess. I was addressing Sasson for that.
Yeah, everyone asked me about that. I'm like, you guys know Sean Bean? They're like, yeah, he's the guy that dies in every movie, right? Yeah, pretty much since 007 GoldenEye, he's just been on a roll for that. But it's a very, very interesting movie, and it's based on private companies who are commissioned by the U.S. government who fly drones into the Middle East, and the carnage that takes place when a drone doesn't necessarily hit where it's supposed to hit, or the after effects. And then how did you meet... I don't want to say too much more about it. I'm kind of
no worries.
Spilling a lot.
And how did you meet, I forgot his name already, Michael...
Yeah, Michael Nielsen. So the director on the film as well, I should say, is Jason Bork. Fantastic filmmaker who, I think we all should support because he's a great Canadian talent. Michael, again, I met through the Screen Composers Guild of Canada. He's on the board of directors, and he's in the Vancouver division. And I'm in the Toronto division, so we got... chatting through email and phone and all that, and took it from there.
That's awesome. So congratulations on landing the role, first of all.
Well, thank you.
In what way did you help them out now?
Yeah, so what I did is, I'm not the main composer on it. That's Michael. He had me on his team to record a bunch of Indian and Middle Eastern and kind of ethnic percussion for the film. There was a lot of shots that took place, in the Eastern countries. So, they wanted a background score which kind of reflects that as well. So, I play like in terms of percussion, I probably play like, 10 or 15 instruments. So he's like, okay, you're like my one-stop shop for that. So I recorded a bunch of that. So if you go, to a theater and watch it, all that percussion, a lot of percussion that you'll hear would be me.
Damn.
It's super cool, honestly.
Just the one guy who composed all that music is sitting in our cabin right now.
Yeah, and the other film that I wanted to talk about as well, I know TIFF is coming up in September. I'll definitely be there. I had a couple submissions that went into TIFF, and another film director I want to shout out who I work really closely with is Lee Foster, and he's another, homegrown talent. He's actually... I believe he's a U of T alum as well, and he's a very young talent. And I actually scored a short film for him, which won an award for best score, which was this past October.
No way!
At the 48-hour film festival.
Yo, congratulations, man!
Yes, thank you. And now we have a film coming out, which I can't talk too much about.
Understandable completely.
But it stars Elvis Stoico, who is a famous figure skater, an Olympic gold medalist for Canada.
Damn.
And so we've submitted to TIFF, and hopefully I can talk more about it depending on what TIFF does with it.
I think by far you're like the biggest celebrity we've had on the show. You're on your way to you're on your way to not just being verified on Instagram and Twitter, but getting an Oscar potentially.
Hey man,
that's
I don't
amazing.
have enough
Congratulations on all that, by the way.
Thank you, man.
On all the opportunity, all the awards.
It's a journey, like I said. It's a marathon. It's not really a sprint in this game. It's a little different than being like a pro athlete, where it's like 18 to 35, then you're done.
Yeah.
This is like a lifelong. John Williams is still scoring films, and he's in his mid-80s.
Well, I hope when Pirates of the Caribbean 20 comes out, you're going to be taking over Hans Zimmer's position.
Hopefully not 20. Hopefully the one before that.
I do have an interesting question, because you said that Michael Nielsen came to you for all of the background score for the Indian and Middle Eastern shots.
Yeah, the percussion, a lot of the South Asian percussion that
So
he wanted.
he used you as your one-stop shop, but what about, are there no other South Asian descent talents out there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I'm sure there are. It's. I think it's a matter of developing a relationship with composers and directors where you understand film, though, not just music. Or it's like, well, I can just play this. I can play this instrument, or I can do this. But there's a lot of great songwriters. For example, I was talking about songwriting. There's great songwriters, but they wouldn't know how to necessarily sync a song to a film, and so that's where a music supervisor comes in, or a composer, someone like me who writes specifically for a specific scene.
Wait, for these songs, you said that you only did the drumming. Does that mean that these composers are taking their own
The score
music?
for the score.
So the score, sorry.
Yeah, right.
They're taking their own music and just putting the percussion track as like a Middle Eastern drum? Or...
Yeah, well, we're kind of. That's a good question. It's a question. So when we do this stuff, it's kind of like, Michael's the lead composer on it, so he's kind of arranged a kind of outline of this is kind of where I want it to go, and then he may hand it off to musician A or B, and that may be me, and then I put my take on it. You know what I mean? So I'm handing him a bunch of material, original material, which he in turn will then arrange further and orchestrate further, and then get it all mixed. So it's precisely what the film director is looking for in their specific shots, and those are called cues.
Okay, and then do they bring in other instruments like the sitar or like other sorts of maybe string instruments or like?
Yeah, so in that score, there's a really interesting instrument called the bazantar, which is a modern creation on it's like a hybrid Western and Eastern instrument. So it has a flavor of a sitar with maybe a little bit of like a cello kind of thing. Oh. It's a really unique instrument, and that's playing over a lot of the percussion that I played in the score of Drone. If you guys go and check out the film.
Well, definitely gonna go check out the film.
I've heard of that instrument. That sounds super cool.
Bazantar, yeah. I mean,
Bazantar.
That was the first time I learned about it too. So you guys aren't alone there.
Sounds like a bad guy from The Flash.
Bazantar. Byzantine Empire.
Actually, maybe that's the history of it.
I don't know.
There's a phenomenal musician in the U.S. I believe he's based in the West, in San Jose area. I could be wrong about that, but he actually created it, and he plays it for a lot of films, a lot of A-list Hollywood films. Call him up specifically. He's like the one guy with that one cool instrument,
The more you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
One thing that you did tell us about off air that you wanted to touch on, and it's a good thing to touch on, is the multiculturalism in music production. And I know that's important because, and that's what my one-stop shop question was for you, was trying to get into that. So right now, I don't know any other music composers. I don't know anyone else who does what you do. And with that said, you're the only person of South Asian descent, Sikh, brown person who does this. What do you see from your standpoint about people like us, people of South Asian descent, in music production and in this industry?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something that I definitely did want to hit on, is that I feel there needs to be more representation within because it's like all of us just end up doing great things, and then we end up in Bollywood, all us great South Asian musicians and composers. And I mean, Bollywood is nothing to laugh at. I mean, they're tremendous.
They're great. It just seems like the stereotype way to go.
Exactly, and that's the issue for me, is that, I mean, I've worked with already worked with some amazing great Bollywood talents, and they're crossing over to the Western markets as well. But I feel like we need some representation in Hollywood and Hollywood North, which is us here in Toronto and Vancouver. And I think there's also a fear, and I've went through it too, that there's the mainstream market only wants a certain specific kind of product and a certain specific type of face. But I think now is the time where a lot of that is really changing. You look at Lily Singh, Superwoman on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
or Just Rain, which is Just Meat, who's a good friend of mine. And I think slowly there is a movement which is happening, which is is very it's changing the game for us South Asians, entering that mainstream market, which I think is very important. Representation in the mainstream.
Very quickly, do you see yourself as kind of a pioneer to lead and forge a path rather for people behind you, so like other kids of South Asian descent in the future?
Well, I think there are great South Asians already in Hollywood. There's A.R. Rahman, and there's a few great others who have paved the way. I'd like to think of myself as someone who wants to, I see myself as the first kind of turbaned Sikh who's like in front of the orchestra conducting them, a 60 or 80 piece orchestra. I mean, that's kind of the dream when that flash that keeps coming to mind. So am I a pioneer? I think that's a little too much to take on for me just yet. But I'd like to think of myself as one of the first few music composers and orchestra conductors that are turbaned and making their way to the mainstream.
And final question for you tonight: what is your social media, and how can people get in touch with you?
The most important question, right? So it's my Twitter handle is at Gagan Singh Music. On Instagram, it's Gagan Singh Music. On YouTube, it's Gagan Singh Music. And Facebook, it's Gagan Singh Music.
You heard
also the official website, sorry, I just want to throw that in, is www.gagansinghmusic.com.
You heard it. Google Gagan Singh and you'll find him. Gagan, it was a pleasure having you tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank
Cheers.
you for coming. Tune in to Urban Definition. We'll be back after the commercial break, so stick around.
Urban Definition. On CHHA 1610. Urban Definition. On CHHA 1610.
So as I was saying, welcome back to Urban Definition, everyone. Sassan is great at paying attention to what goes on in the studio.
We were having such a great conversation.
I am glad you were, and that's great. But right now we need to finish the show,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, my goodness.
Sassan, what are you doing this weekend?
What am I doing this weekend? Oh, my God. Canada Day weekend, and it's the 150th, so I was actually super excited about this one thing that probably no one else in Toronto is excited about, and it's the giant rubber ducky that they're inflating down at the harbor.
Everyone knows about that.
I feel like...
It's been all over the news. What do you mean nobody knows about that?
No, but I mean, I don't think people are as excited as I am.
Yeah, because everyone who's a taxpayer who contributes to society is like, oh, man, there's a giant rubber duck? Great, how much is this costing us? That much? Oh, why the hell are we doing this?
But it's great, because this is the duck that everyone's, always taking pictures of when they go to Hong Kong and stuff. And I'm like, I want to take pictures of this duck.
You're doing it for the gram?
Not only that...
You're doing it for the gram, Sassan?
I also want to see a giant rubber ducky. Because I don't know how big it is. I'm just wondering how big this giant rubber ducky is. Is it, Guinness World Record big? I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Where's Gagan? I want to have him back on the show instead. Oh, man. Yes, everyone, it is Canada 150 weekend, and if you're not... just planning to go see the rubber duck. Well, there are a bunch of things that are going to be going on this weekend. Let's start with Friday. First up on Friday is Our Home on Native Land. Acknowledge the creative contributions of Indigenous and new Canadians through a family-friendly celebration of the diverse sounds and stories of the land known as Turtle Island at the Harbourfront Centre from Friday to Monday. You're also going to have the Toronto Rib Fest, which is starting on Friday, and it's going to run through all the long weekend from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. It will be held at Centennial Park. Sassan, are you planning to go eat ribs at the least?
I didn't even know it was running, but probably not. It's too much. It's not early enough. It's too early for Ribfest.
Too early for it's July at this point.
I feel like Ribfest needs to be in August when summer's already been going on for so long and it's really hot out, and then you're
well, the way
barbecue season.
The way the weather's been going, it might only be summer for the next weekend, and that's it. I had to wear a jacket at some point today.
That's what I mean. It's not barbecue time yet.
It might never be. No. FNL O Canada will be the theme of this Friday's ROM Friday Night Lights party. Celebrate Canada 150 with complimentary access to 3 inspiring exhibits: Out of the Depths, The Blue Whale Story, Anishinabeg, Art and Power, and the family camera. And I apologize if I completely screwed up that second exhibit name.
And I've actually been to that blue whale exhibit, and I highly recommend it, even though most of the things are about whales dying. Like,
Oh,
if you don't like that, don't watch the movies in there, but everything else is super interesting.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's because it was about, like, the St. Lawrence River, how, like,
Oh,
there was, like, ice appearing, and it, like, killed a lot of the whales. It killed, like, I think 9% of the population of blue whales.
that's a large percent.
Yeah, but other than that, the cool part was that you can actually see, like, a full skeleton of a blue whale, and you're like, it's actually that big. This
That's
is
crazy.
me. That's it. Oh my god.
And
This
that thing just,
feeds on krill.
good God.
Yeah, that's the best part about it.
All right, so you definitely have a recommendation from Sasson to go to FNL. There's also Heritage Ontario Festival at Ontario Place from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., Friday to Monday. Celebrate the heritage, culture, and traditions of Ontario through music on multiple stages, interactive exhibits, food and drink vendors, and spread out all over the Ontario Place grounds. Also, if you did hear a phone ring, it's not mine. I think the previous host left their phone in the cabin.
Oh no.
So, Sylvia, if you're listening, your phone is safe and sound, and we will try to find a way to get it back to you safe and sound. On Saturday, it is the big day. It's the main event. It is Canada 150. And you have to be ready to have the ultimate Canada Day ever. And I mean ever. If you're not in Ottawa for Canada Day and you're in Toronto, well, one, you should probably be in Ottawa. I'm not going to just not plug that city just because we are based here. But
What do you mean, Ottawa?
I've heard they
Toronto's gonna
have.
be good, too.
I've heard they've had the most amazing Canada Days. But if you're in Toronto, there is a crazy amount of things that happen. Sasson is going to go to the One Rubber Duck event. But Sasson, did you know that you have more options than that?
Yes, I heard that at Nathan Phillips Square they're gonna have fireworks, but I never like the fireworks there. I hope.
All right, let me get into this very quick.
Okay.
You have free admission to so many museums, such as the Aga Khan Museum, the ROM, the Beta Shoe Museum. You've got Canada Day celebrations at High Park, Queen's Park, Downsview Park, Melasman Square, Scarborough Civic Center, Scarborough, Burgers Priest. They're having a Canada Day theme. Toronto Salsa Practice, even the Reggae Festival 2017. You can attend the Red Path Waterfront Festival, as Sasson will do, and see the giant rubber duck. And then there are going to be Canada Day fireworks all over the city, which includes, the most famously, Canada's Wonderland, which starts at 10 p.m.
Oh, I actually never knew where the best fireworks would be. I thought it'd be Nathan Phillips Square because that's like Toronto's part.
I think the CN Tower is also planning to have some fireworks, too.
That's
I'm not-
exciting.
Yeah.
Because we never have good fireworks.
You know how they had it for Pan Am?
I don't remember. Oh, yeah, wait, no, I do remember. I was there for that. Yeah.
So I think they're planning to do something like that. I know I've read it somewhere. I don't know if it's official.
I really hope they put in big bucks for our fireworks.
Well, they've spent, maybe most of that money's been spent on your rubber ducks. So, But Canada Day is going to be crazy. Literally everywhere you go is going to be celebrating. It's a Saturday as well, so everyone's happy. And then Monday's the holiday, of course. Oh, but before we go, Sunday, assuming you're not hungover in some sort of way, there are still some things to enjoy. Indulge at David Picot Square, for example, at 12:30 p.m., and listen to some free concerts at lunchtime. The TD Jazz Fest is actually coming to a close on Sunday, so visit www.torontojazz.com to find out more. On Monday, you have TD Salsa in Toronto, which is starting up from July 3rd to the 27th. And it's basically, celebrating the summer Latino style with the 13th annual TD Salsa on St. Clair Free Street Festival, which is going to be Saturday, July 8th and July 9th as part of that. The main event is the TD Salsa Toronto lineup, and I didn't have that written down, so I'm very sorry. But yeah, it's going to be, it's something that goes big every year, and I know people who go, they enjoy it a lot. So yeah, Canada Day weekend, enjoy yourselves. We're going to post what we're doing. I'm personally doing a barbecue with some friends. You're going to the duck. I don't know what Kareem is doing.
Yeah, just be proud to be Canadian this weekend, honestly. It's our 150th. We have so much cool stuff.
In fact, that's what I wanted to ask you. What is something that you're very proud of being... Sorry, what is something that being Canadian has made you proud of?
That I never honestly see race. I realized that when my cousins came from LA last week, and honestly, when you're walking down Toronto, there's a mixture of basically everyone. There's never one big, sorry, what's it called? Not minority, the other one.
Majority?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why that word slipped me. But yeah, there's no majority downtown when you're walking. It's just, I love that about Canada. And no one judges anyone. I love that.
Well, that's good.
We're all humans. What about
Something-
you, Zane?
I appreciate Canada for opening its arms to East Asian refugees and immigrants. My parents in particular came from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, as you know. So, we always have this debate, am I African or am I brown or whatever. I am ethnically Indian, culturally Canadian. And had it not been for Pierre Elliott Trudeau and the Aga Khan having a friendship and a partnership in that sense, I would not be here. And so being an Ismaili Muslim and a Canadian is something I take great pride in, because this country has allowed my community to prosper and has allowed me to live out my dreams, And I know something we talked about with Gagan off air was how the mentality of South Asians is, arts is not a career, it's a hobby. But being here has allowed me to make a career out of this, giving me a chance to express my voice and everything. So I'm very, very thankful to Canada for that, and all the multiculturalism. Have a happy Canada 150 weekend, everyone. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. Arrive alive. Don't be stupid. Don't do anything dumb. Take it in. Take it all in. We'll see you next week. I actually won't be here, but Sassan will. Bye.
Urban Definition.